Good morning, Guidance 3, and welcome to Confirming Our Core Values. Last week, we began talking about our work importance values, the things that we value in work, and now we're going to be doing a little bit more of that value work in terms of our personal values, the things that are kind of core to us, the things that we kind of believe, that we need, that we're passionate about, and maybe talking a little bit about how those things align to kind of impact and inform the major and career decisions that we'll make either now or later in our lives. Okay, so let's get right into it. So a couple of things for us to consider just to kind of frame this work that we're going to be doing in this portion of the class. How do you define values? Right? Sometimes values can be this abstract thing that is hard to kind of get our hands on, but I really want you to consider, how do you define values for yourself? Okay, and once you've defined values for yourself, I want you to maybe think of 3 things that you value in your life. Okay, could be anything at all. There's no right or wrong. This is completely personal to you. But one, I want you to define values, and now that you've defined them, what are 3 things that you value in your life? Okay, what are 3 things that you think people might value in you? Right? And again, be honest with yourself. This isn't necessarily things that you would wish people would value in you, but 3 things that you actually think people value in you. Okay, and then lastly, what are things that you would like your employer to value? Right? And I think this is a really good question, because a lot of the times we think about what we value in relation to the work without considering what our employer values. And I think it's a question that I would really encourage you to kind of stand in and lean into, because I think it's also important that your employer's values, or the company that you work for, their values are also aligned with yours in some way, just to make the work palatable, right? To make it easy enough to go to work every day, understanding that the company that you're working for believes in the same kind of things as you, as it relates to the values that you find important. Okay? All right. So, for this presentation, how we're going to operationally define values, we're going to call them forces that guide and influence your decisions throughout your life, right? Forces that guide and influence your decisions throughout your life. And the reason why I think forces is a really good word to use when we're talking about values is because values can be all kinds of different things, right? They can be actual things, like physical things, like maybe you might value your home. Maybe you might value your car, because that car allows you to kind of get around and get to work, get to school, you know, pick up your younger brother or sister from school or something like that. But they can also be ideas or concepts that are important to you, right? They don't necessarily have to be physical things. So something like honesty could absolutely be a value that helps to guide and influence decisions that you make throughout your life. Integrity, right? Honesty, those types of things, right? So I think the word forces is really a good word to use, excuse me, when we're talking about, how to operationally define values, right? Things, ideas, or concepts that are important to you, right? And then lastly, they can also be deeply held convictions that influence your thinking when you're faced with choices, right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that last one in some subsequent slides coming up, but deeply held convictions that influence your decision when you're faced with choices, okay? Okay, values and behaviors, right? So we already know that values are self-motivating factors, right? Values are things, ideas, or concepts that are going to motivate us to do whatever it is that we need to do, right? And ideally, what should happen, or what we would like to happen, is that if we're honoring the things that we say we value, they should be giving us direction, consistency towards positive behavior, right? It should be pushing us to do things in a way that is aligned with what we say we value. Okay, so what does that mean? If you're somebody that values honesty, hopefully it will encourage you to always be an honest person, right? If you are somebody who values time, you're not going to show up late for interviews. You're not going to show up late for class. You're not going to hand in work late to your professors, things like that, right? So if we value something, ideally it should be giving us direction and kind of pushing us to promote positive behaviors in our lives so that we are acting in accordance with and aligned with the things that we say we value. Okay, I think that's really, really important. All right. Values also help us determine what to make time for, right? If we say we value our education, and again, many of us talked about this in our college why, right? And this is kind of why we do the work for the college why, because I always want you to have an idea, a North Star of why you're doing this work, right? But if we value our education and the opportunity to become whatever it is that we want to become, then ideally what should be happening is that we should be making the time for our education, which can sometimes be hard, right? We all have other things going on in our lives. Some of you are wearing multiple hats in your lives. You're not just a student, but you are a brother or a sister or a parent or a guardian, a friend, all kinds of different things, right? And so it can be hard to make time for everything. But I think, once we identify what our core values are and we're honest with ourselves about what those core values are, hopefully they'll help to determine what to make time for, right? And what that means is that we'll prioritize the things that mean the most to us, right? We'll prioritize the things that mean the most to us. So we kind of talked about that in the 7 Habits of Successful High School Students when we're talking about, putting first things first, right? Got to put first things first. Always want to make sure that our behavior is aligned with and kind of driven by the things that we say we value. Okay, super important. Okay, needs and motivators. So our inner drive, our needs, our motivations, all of those things kind of converge to help influence how we might make a choice about a major or a career. Okay, our inner drive, our needs, our motivations, the things that we need, the things that we want, those are also going to help to influence what we choose and why we choose it. Okay. And when we're talking about those needs that are going to help influence how we choose something, those can really be complex, right? Those can progress from the most basic needs to the things that are way more complex, maybe way more deep, um, you know, things that you wouldn't normally consider, right? And so when we're talking about that, what we mean is this. When we're talking about the basic needs, food, water, and shelter, right? You may make a decision on a major or a career based on the basic needs that you need in order to survive, right? I'm just going to go and get a job down the street for now because I need to be able to pay for food, get water, pay my bills, maybe use my phone so I can stay in contact with people. I just need to meet my basic needs, right? And on the other hand, there may be folks who are making decisions about their majors or their careers based on what they want out of life. So maybe they want money. Maybe it's important to have status, right? I know that when I was going through my master's program, a lot of folks were thinking about going and getting a doctorate degree. And not everybody was necessarily thinking about getting a doctorate degree because they wanted to do a particular kind of work and impact folks in a particular type of way. A lot of people were like, I just want to be called Dr. McLaren. That's just really important to me. And truthfully, I struggled with that a little bit. There's definitely been times in my professional career where I was like, man, sure would be nice to be Dr. McLaren, right? And truthfully, that would be motivated by status and not necessarily by anything else, right? And so when we're talking about the things that motivate us, the things that we need, again, could range from the most basic needs to the most complex needs. Okay. And there's nothing wrong. I want to make sure that I reiterate this. There's nothing wrong or nothing bad about wanting status or wanting fame or wanting money out of a career, right? That is not to say that. I think it's just important that we identify or try to do the work to identify what is the thing that's driving us. What are the needs and the motivations that are helping to influence these decisions that we're making? Okay. Super important distinction. Now, oftentimes what happens is that we become aware of the higher order needs that we need after the lower order needs have already been met, okay? And sometimes our values can change after our needs are met, okay? And that's really, really important. I think as we do this work, you're gonna find, one, hopefully we'll identify our personal core values, but also what I want you to maybe do is kind of be reflective and think about, were these values that I have now, were these the same things that I valued 5 years ago, right? And 5 years from now, if I keep on the trajectory that I'm hoping to keep on, are these going to be the same things that I value then, right? Because I do think that as we grow and as we learn more, our values absolutely change because sometimes your needs change, right? If your needs are already met, now your needs are different, okay? And so really all of this kind of works towards and kind of points towards this hierarchy of needs here that you see. Okay, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And really what this is a psychological theory that kind of helps to inform and help to teach us how people can reach self-actualization. Okay, and so really what you see here is at the bottom here, you're going to see all of everybody's physiological needs that everybody needs, right? Air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, which is a weird way to say intimacy. reproduction is so not the right word. Okay, but ideally what you see here is this. Once we have our physiological needs met, our needs change. Okay, once we have met our basic needs, which you'll see in that bottom area there, now we can start progressing to the next set of needs that are going to be important to us, right? So according to Maslow's theory and hierarchy of needs, once we have our physiological needs met, we can now worry about our safety needs. So personal security, employment, health, property, right? We have all of the other things met. Now we can worry about those. Once we have our safety needs set, now we're going to move on to love and belonging, right? So once we know that we're okay, we're going to kind of reach out into the world and try to find a little bit of community. So friendship, intimacy, family, a little sense of connection, right? Once we found our community, now we want to kind of find our own esteem, right? Sometimes what happens a lot is that you'll find, once you find a community, you kind of have a little bit of a drive to kind of be unique from the community a little bit, right? And that's where the esteem comes in. So the respect, the self-esteem, the status of oneself, recognition, right? And then once you have all those, you can really move forward to that last step in this hierarchy of self-actualization and really trying to become the most that we can be, right? Hopefully the best version of ourselves, okay? Okay, differences in values. Again, there's no right or wrong in terms of whatever your values are, but values can absolutely be different based on a whole list of things, right? So your culture will likely play a huge role in what you value, right? Some cultures really value family, right? I know that I come from, I told you in a previous presentation, my folks are from the Caribbean, and in the Caribbean, family is super duper important, right? But you may come, or maybe other folks might come from a culture where independence is a little bit more valued, right? You're encouraged to kind of break off from the family and go and become your own person, right? So your culture can definitely have an influence on the things that you do or do not value, okay? And again, there's no right or wrong. Your ethnicity might be something that helps to inform the things that you do or you don't value, right? If you maybe are part of an ethnic group that is not very well represented here in California, it might be important to you to really hold on to that culture, right? The culture associated with that ethnicity. I know for myself, again, there's not really a lot of Caribbean folks where I live, and so it's really important for me every once in a while to eat food that I'm used to, right? Listen to music that I'm used to. Listen to people speaking how I'm used to hearing people speaking, right? And all of those things can, and they do for me, but they can inform the things that you do when you don't value, okay? Your socioeconomic background might also be something that helps to inform or impact the things that you value, right? If you're used to maybe not having a lot of money, that stability in your career might be something that you absolutely value. That might be one of your deal breakers that you absolutely need, right? And conversely, if you've maybe not had to worry about finances so much in your life, then you might be looking for something different in work. You might just be looking for enjoying your 8.7 hours a week, right? That might be something that's more important to you than the actual stability of the work financially, right? Your upbringing, your childhood may absolutely inform what you do and do not value, right? If you if you come from a large family might be something that's super important to you. And therefore, maybe moving to another state for school just might not be something that's feasible for you because it's not aligned with your value of being close to family and having that community, right? Your ability or your disability, right? Absolutely something that would or could impact and influence the things that you value, okay? Age. Age is absolutely something that's going to impact what you value and how you value it, right? The things that were important to you when you were in first grade are probably not that important to you now, right? And in that spirit, the things that are important to you now in 15, 20 years may not be as important to you. And so I think that really speaks to the importance of doing this work consistently, right? This is not something that we do one time, we delve deep into our values, we figure them out, and these are the values that we're going to have for the rest of your life, because they'll absolutely change, right? As you become professionals, as you grow, as you get into relationships and get out in relationships, as you maybe have a family or expand your family, your values will absolutely change. And so this work is really, really important to kind of think of in a cyclical manner, right? It's a cycle. It's not something that we do once and throw away. It's not a magic pill. It really is work that we need to continuously do for ourselves. Okay? So finding balance. The ability to include all of your priorities and values in your career and your life plan is really what we're hoping to do. And if we do that, then I think we've found a really good balance for you, right? So trying to incorporate all the things that matter to you in your career and your life plan is hopefully what this work is about for you, okay? Really finding balance is the difference between, workaholics and playaholics, right? I don't think anybody intends to try to be either one on purpose, but really trying to find the balance of between that, right? If we're working too much, we can maybe, be susceptible to burnout, right? That's absolutely something that's true. And, in the work that I do, I find that students are becoming potentially burnt out younger and younger and younger, right? So it's really important to try to find that balance, right? Find that balance of, of work and then enjoyment, while also, adhering to and honoring the things that you value, okay? Identifying what makes you happy, and so essentially our values, can help identify careers that are aligned with them, right? So again, one of my values is serving people. It's really important to me that in any work that I would have chose to do, that I'm serving people, that I'm helping people reach their goals. That makes me feel good. And so if that's a value of mine, then obviously being a counselor is completely aligned with that, right? That's literally what I do every single day. I work with people to help kind of clarify and identify their goals and then try to help them get there, right? So identifying what makes you happy can maybe help us to figure out, okay, if we know that these 2 or 3 things are things that, you value, how do we find careers? How do we find companies? How do we find occupational families that are aligned with those values? Okay. So that hopefully when you go to work, it doesn't necessarily feel like work. Okay. Very important. And lastly, identifying ways to incorporate your interests into your work or your personal time can also help you sharpen that saw, right? And this is a really important distinction, because I think sometimes what we try to do when we do career exploration is that we try to find the perfect job that has everything that we need, right? All of our deal makers, none of our deal breakers, incorporates all of our values, all the things that you want. And truthfully, that can be a tall order. That can be something that's really, really hard, right? And so if you value, something like imagination and creativity, and you're not able to find that in your work necessarily, but you love the work that you do, don't shy away from that. Let's see if we can find a way to incorporate that creativity and that imagination in something personal, right? I know lots of folks who maybe feel like this, who might work in a business setting, and on the weekends they might do painting workshops, right? It doesn't all necessarily have to be aligned and incorporated in the work that you do. But as long as we can find personal time for you to be able to incorporate some of those other values and do some of those other things that make you feel good, that help to keep your saw sharp, that's just as important as well, right? Super duper important, okay? So we have another values assessment coming up. I'm really, really excited about this one. I think you guys are going to like this one. As you go through this values assessment, really, really important that you just follow the instructions, because it can be a little tricky if you're not reading carefully. Okay, and I want to make sure that we're all getting everything that we need to get out of this next assessment. Okay, so as always, thank you. Make sure that you're looking at all of the discussions for this week, responding to everything. Again, those are part of your participation points at the end of the semester. I really hope you guys enjoyed this values assessment, and we'll see you soon.